smile. I want you smile. I love you smile. I love you smile. Why don't you smile? We've been thinking about some positive changes. We need some positive changes. Thinking about some positive.
And now today's host, Imam Ezekiel Pasha.
Welcome to the Thinker Radio Magazine broadcast. Assalamu alaikum, dear listening audience. We're here today again with our host, Imam Ezekiel Muhi Pasha, who is the originator of the Thinker Radio Magazine broadcast, as well as the publisher and editor of the Thinker newspaper. He is also the Imam of the historical Masjid Malcolm Shabazz, located in the village of Harlem. We want to get right started. We have a number of concerns we'd like to bring to our leader, our Imam, and we'll get started right away. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Imam.
Wa alaikum assalam, Brother Tariq. Alhamdulillah. Praise be to God. Always we witness to God as one, having no associate or partner. He's God alone. As God is always in control, never absent. Nothing happens out of His sight. And we witness to our beloved Prophet Muhammad, the prayers and the peace be upon him, Allah's servant and messenger, and the mercy to all of humanity, and all that follow of that traditional salute to our beloved Prophet Muhammad. Alhamdulillah, we are grateful to God again for blessing us to utilize the technology that He has allowed man to tap into in order to bring this live broadcast. And our hope is in our discussion with Brother Tariq and Brother Philip that what we attempt to do is to give you answers from the perspective of our religion, our faith, Al-Islam, and hope to God that as we answer these things or address them, that you need to know our intent or niyyah is to give good and nothing but good. So praise be to God. We'll get started. Brother Tariq?
Yes, Brother Imam, first of all, just if you'll give us a little brief update on Inkster. I know we're getting ready for a February program in Inkster next month.
Yes.
That's coming right up on us very quickly. And there's been any developments there that our community would like to know about or like to share with our listening audience?
Praise be to God. Well, we have the two. We have the February 10th, the Crab Muhammad School Fun, not February, was it? Yeah, February. Time is,
February,
oh Almighty, God is.
Educational Award Banquet.
Yeah, the Educational Award Banquet on the 10th here at the Masjid in the Cultural Center. And I know that for a number of months now, they have had the live auctions going on where people could begin to raising the funds, purchase or bid on products that we have online. So that will be happening, and then right behind that, the annual commemorative Savior's Day, in which Imam W.D. Muhammad, our leader, may God be pleased with his work and grant him the paradise along with his mother and father, and continue to elevate them because of the good work we do behind them. And he established it, his father established under his leadership what was called Savior's Day. And after the father passing and the Imam became the leader, in time through his leadership, he recognized it as the commemorative, and just recognizing those great men and women, including Mr. Farad or W.D. Farad or W.D.F. Muhammad, the many names he went by, who was the teacher who brought the form of Al-Islam to his father. And from that point, the Imam came and was able to explain the whole dynamics of success of his intent, that is Mr. Farad's intent, to help the African American descendants here to see life again in Al-Islam. So the commemorative day will be in Inkster, as you said, at the Inkster Educational Center for Human Excellence, which is our school. And we're looking to do a very special situation, and this time in the auditorium, utilizing our 1,000-seat auditorium. And the stage, we intend to set up a kind of room and have just discussions on the many heroes and sheroes that have impacted our lives from Islamic perspective, coming from his father and etc. And we've been inviting those who may be relatives of some of these heroes and sheroes to come and just have the discussion on the impact of their lives and the continuous mission and work that they put forward. So we hope that that will be very successful. As you know, in Inkster, the Inkster family skating rink was opened just in November around the Thanksgiving time, and it was very successful, the grand opening with the Honorable Mayor, Patrick Wimbley, and his guests, and I think they said that went viral. I think that's the word they use, or something like that, meaning everybody's seen it some way, I guess. And so now we have been scheduling and looking to about the matter of fact, just around that the week of the commemorative, that we will be having folks online making the reservations, because the skating rink in which we have it designed as a non-for-profit organization is extended to groups, and we're utilizing it in a manner meaning that it's not a walk-in, it's by appointment only, and it's to groups, organizations. And the way we've structured the pricing and what have you at such reasonable numbers so that different groups can utilize it as a fundraiser and what have you. And the purpose of having the groups is that you know who you got there. Right. You know, they know who they all are together, and etc. The safety, security has a more stronger chance of maintaining that than if you just walk in and didn't know whom, how you were dealing with. So we'll be taking. We've already had like 27 different people calling and when they can point out, and we structured the hours of opening, the days we're opening, and etc. So that'll be up there very soon. Prior to that, we've had 2 other folks already who have used it. We've had Christmas Day. As a matter of fact, our brother out there, Brother Calvin Hayes, and his family and a bunch of children, I think they said it was close to 75 to 100 of them, that came out in the evening, and part of their celebration in terms of that Christmas celebration, his family, all of them, the children came and skated and enjoyed it. And he said he had some real great comments from some of the seniors and others. He said they had one of the parents who was observing our walls. As you know, we have the heroes and sheroes throughout the roller rink. And she had a group of children over there and asked them, do you know who this was? Do you know what they did? So she was actually having an educational class. There you go. And that's exactly what they said in terms of that. So it's doing what we intended to do, and what the Imam has guided us to do. And it was just amazing how one of the things when he was talking about establishing community life, and he had mentioned, and we should have our own skating rink. And alhamdulillah, yes sir, boss, we're going to go get it. You know. So praise be to God. So things are going pretty well, and we're looking to, God willing, hopefully before next year's convention, or this year's convention, I should say, that we'll have more businesses opened up, so that when they come this year, God willing, hopefully that we'll be able to tour the Inkster Harlem Market. We'll be able to tour, hopefully, one of the restaurants and what have you, and a couple other businesses, God willing. We're working hard at it, inshallah. So praise be the Lord.
Yes, we're looking forward to that. Yeah, Brother Imam, I wanted to, the last 2 weeks you've been giving the Jummah service, which is the congregational service for the Muslims, the obligatory service for us.
Yes.
And there's been so many things that I wanted to bring some up and share some of them with our listening audience. The first one is you've been giving a perspective about we would call it the hereafter, the life after. That what God prepares us for. Could you comment on just the idea of life after and your perspective that you've been giving and sharing with us? I know there's a lot, so you know.
Yeah. That's well, as a person looking to serve and do what is right all my life, I just thank God for guidance. Is what we ask for, what we pray for guidance. And God has favored us with that guidance with our leader, Imam W.D. Muhammad, follower of Prophet Muhammad. And he addressed the Akira from the ayats of the Quran, where we are told, and I think I got it here, Watanji Fima ta kaulahu, dara, akira ta, wala tanza nasibaka minadunya. And the Imam gives this as a translation from the Arabic: seek with what God has given you as a means to work with the home of the future or the home of the end. But don't neglect your share in this world. End of that quote from the Quran in the English translation. The Imam goes on and said the word akira, it literally means in or ladder. And if you are going in a direction, the end of it is akira. He continues, he says, seek the home of the end, the destination, the destiny set by God. The important part of what he's saying here, set by God, not your destiny set by you, you know, which becomes a key piece. And he says, seek the home in that destiny. When you have evolved, as he said, as I will explain, and that you evolve, that will be the end when you have evolved. That will be the last of it. The last of it will be when you arrive at the complete life that I am evolving you upon, saying what God is saying to us in those ayats. When you arrive at that complete life, that will be the last. And the Imam says does that not make sense? And again, as you said, this is a lot, and I believe these Jum'ahs were available on this technology where the depths of it to be studied. This is to be studied. You can capture it so much in a certain an hour, 45 minute time, but in this time we're living in, the value of this has no price of understanding life, and we're in a time that clearly, as the Imam has said, and Scriptures has backed up what he said because he has took it from Scripture, meaning our holy book and the books before. That we're living in a time based on Scriptures, the conclusion of things. Things are being concluded. And the sign of that we're living in this concluding of things for mankind, for what concluding mean, for what God intended for us to receive, intended for us to have as a human society on this planet Earth. And the sign that we are living in the concluding of time is the coming of Muhammad, the prophet, the prayers and peace be upon him. That he is the seal of the prophets. He's the last of the prophets. So if there's no more prophets to come and he seals it, then that in itself says, well, then what time are we living in? We're living in the concluding. Because what God is saying through the prophet and our holy book, the Quran, and the books revealed before, and the great prophets that we know of and the ones we don't know of, and the great seers and etc., that have all come, and the 7 major prophets that we do know more about than in most of the other ones, that time has come to where what God said when he was making us, the human being, this human creation, that when he completes his favor, when he completes it, you know, that favor. What is the complete of favor? That is giving us the guidance so that it will be clear, based on him giving us free will, to use the free will, that our natural inclination, the way he designed us, and we see this in the babies, as the Imam Muhammad have said on many occasions, to address the picture clearly for humanity, and really in the time we're living in now, of Satan's effort. This is also the highest time for Satan's busyness, as to make you not see that you're living in the concluding of things. So Satan is very busy, because if this is a concluding of things, that means it's also concluding his influence in his attack on mankind. All right. So here we are living in this time, and the prophet is an indication that this is concluding that man has received all that God wants him to receive as a intellect, as a thinking human being, intelligence, use of all the faculties, and what have you, that God has given him. So now he no longer has to have guesswork. And also our second father, Abraham, he was a great sign of that, as God says to him, and we used to think about it, why did God call him a friend? Because he seen it before it was concluded. He was able to come to the conclusion in his search that human beings have been searching for naturally, knowing their life and how it came about from animal existence, infancy and such, from animal existence to the point of the using of their intelligence. So mankind has always logically, like the picture we see in the animal kingdom, that every animal, bird, any animal you can think of, fish life, anything, it somehow instinctually knows its mother. And somehow instinctually, with eyes not functioning, etc., know where to get the nourishment from, know how to get to the breast. I mean, these are the beauties of things along the line, to see that the instinct that is in you to seek God, to seek an authority that can protect you, that will love you, that will nourish you, and etc. This is instinctual. God designed for all the animal creation, but what makes us above the animal creation is our ability, our intellect, our intelligence, our ability to think and choose different. The animal kingdom, the fish doesn't choose a different mother than the mother it came with. The horse, the dog, doesn't choose another mother than the one it came with. The only time that may happen is man interferes. But under the natural order, you can see in the animal kingdom, they'll show you pictures where there's thousands of elephants, there's thousands of other animals, horses, but in buffalo and anything else, they show you the seals and everything coming on, million them on the thing, or birds. But the one gets on there, knows which mother to go right through, between all of that. So this is the mercy of God in terms of me trying to help, myself and us to understand this. Yeah. So we're in this time now where man does not have to guess anymore about, is there a God? He has been raised through his intellect and his search, knowing that there is something bigger than me. There is something that is behind all that I see. And I have been calling it many names, as through history. As I said, man searching. Oh, the water must be it. Or the mountains must be it. Yes. Or the sun must be it. This is our father Abraham helping us out in terms of the things, searching and saying, because in his nature, like that baby searches for the mother's breast, though it can't see, a sensitivity of the senses brings it to it, though it has no visual, the sense of smell, the sense of etc. The mother knows where the baby is based on the sense of smell. So you get all those walruses and all those seals on the thing, and if another baby came to it, that mother turns away because that ain't hers. The sense, so the importance of the sense of this thing. And about sense means having some sense. The use of some sense. So we're in a time that the Akira, that latter part, the taking us to the future and what have you, as God says, that time is here because we're no longer in the need to guess work. Is the mountain God? Is the fire God? Is the thunder God? Is the lightning God? Is the star God? Is the sun? No longer does man have to be searching like that. God is God, and God is plain in your sight.
I think, Brother Man, what you presented is right along with that. Is you said that God was preparing us for life after ignorance, and once we come into that was the ignorant period.
That's the death.
Yeah.
The death of ignorance.
Yeah.
And now you come into the awakening. Yeah. You know, the awakening is when the intellect begins to observe and choose, make choices. All right, and by seeking the guidance of God, we begin to twist and turn from laying on the back to laying on the stomach, to grabbing a hold of chairs and everything after crawling, and all this step is tied into actually the movements of our prayers. The salat indicates that whole step forward, that whole growth. You start with the salat standing up. That's the hope you want to be, the position you want to be, the mustaqim, the straight up. That's what you want to be. So you start where you want to be. And then you say, well, let me remind you the process that gets you there. All right? And where do you put your hands? Over the rope of God, where God tied the rope to. Your navel, where you were tied to the rope. Don't forget the navel. Don't forget the rope that binds you when you couldn't bind yourself, when you had no control. There was a rope. And on the other end of that rope was God's favor, your community, your mother. And everything was there. You didn't have to worry about nothing. You know, so I mean, this is all beautiful and what have you. But again, I would say to folks, whatever material you can get on Imam W.D. Muhammad, that would be the wisest thing I can say. And his knowledge is referring back to the Quran. So get the Quran and get the Imam's reading, and it will give you a better understanding on how to read the Quran and reap the great glorious benefits that those of us who have submitted are reaping. So this is a great time that we're living in, and it's the time of all, when you come to the conclusion of things, the akhirah, the end, and it's the end, it's the ladder, but it's the destiny, meaning here's where I've been trying to get to. So now once I get there, where am I? Heading for the future. I'm heading for the future now. So the future, based on the awakening of the intelligence, of the intellect, of reasoning, and all of these things, once you've gotten to that point, then ignorance no longer, this is where we come and say, and truth crushed to the ground must rise. So the Akira speaks to that too, that you're coming to the concluding, you're coming to the end, you're the board, and etc. The destiny, and where the destiny is, all falsehood is gone. So all of this that we're hearing now, Satan's work, the devil's work, the enemy of mankind's work, to hold on to racism, to hold on to color consciousness. It's the concluding of things. You're not going to be able to hold on that no more. To keep people busy with that kind of thing. And let's listen to the time we're in. Keep them with racism. Keep them with color consciousness. Keep them with tribalism. Not tribalism for goodness sake, where one tribe can meet the other tribe and benefit from them. No, the negative part for tribalism. Keep them in fear. All right? And keep them gambling. All of the vices that all the scriptures before that have been revealed says these things are the work of your enemy. And if you engage in them, gambling, extremes, passions, extremism for sexuality, we're living in all of this stuff is going on. And it's on its last leg because what I'm seeing, mankind has come to the point where he has to make a decision. Are you going to hold on to that? Or are you going to join what God has ushered in, and they call it the global community? The global community. We are now in a state of one human family on this earth, and we must recognize each other. The global community. The global economic system. What was the word they used for this? One world order. You know, some thought it was some kind of Nazism, something. No. That's Satan again trying to get ahead of the game. But no, we are in one world order. Look at everything. Look at it. In Asia, virus came. Where you're getting a lot of your goods from? Couldn't get your goods no more. The world is no longer everybody in their own little corner under the selfish rhyme, because we all are interconnected, and God has made it that way through the technology allow man to kind of come into, and then sometimes takes a lot of credit for it, and this is to my own and all this kind of stuff. But looking to that to the side, we are in a situation to where now the whole world is interconnected and interdependent on each other, the way God wanted to be. And it's come to that situation that I can't have some kind of prejudicial attitude against you because you got something that I need. Right. And that's why it says in the book, and let ye all come to know each other. I didn't create you in the nations and tribes to be enemies and to work against each other. I created you nation and tribe and gave each one of you a space within this earth that I created, so that there's going to be something there that each one of you going to need. And fair dealings will be the order of the day, not usury. Yeah, so these are the things that we're dealing with.
Yes, with that global connection that you're referring to, Brother Ma'am, brings me to the COVID and the virus. Would you give a perspective on it other than the fear factor that's been promoted and shut down everything kind of thing? Can you give a perspective?
Well, alhamdulillah, you got, in my opinion anyway.
We'll take that wholeheartedly.
And I think it has some merits to it. To hit it straight on, you got one way that you can not have COVID, that you can eliminate it, and that is simply don't breathe. All right, so let's look at that one for a minute. You know, you don't breathe, you won't get COVID. They say it comes in through the nostrils, so don't breathe. Okay, so if that's not going to work for you, okay, if that's not a working answer, then the reality that viruses have always been with humanity on earth in every aspect of the created matter. There's a virus, always been there. And viruses have their right to live and exist. Some may say, well, we believe man created this virus, and man experimenting with biological warfare and things like that did this. And maybe that might be true. I don't have any evidence of it. That might be true. However, whatever he made it from, he took it from the existing creation. And he violated the rules that we see God shows us just as clear as it can be between fresh water and salt water. And the Revelation says it. They both will right up to each other, but they don't cross the boundaries. They don't cross the boundaries. So that's saying to the man of science, as you go along, there are going to be boundaries that you should not cross. And if you cross them, the virus in that fresh water and the virus in that salt water is serving the life in the fresh water and serving the life in the salt water. But if you force them to cross over, now you have violated that order, and therefore you're not going to be able to eat the fish out of any of that water. It's not going to nourish you no more. So this virus, again, as man, governments and etc. respond by shutting down and locking up people and everything, and all of these decisions based on fear, not the use of common sense, in the sense that the virus didn't get to America because somebody got on a plane and came here. That virus got here because of the trade winds of the earth and how it functions. The trade winds and also the oceans. In the ocean, you don't call it trade winds. You call it how you navigate to get to places in the oceans, like trade winds. But what do they call it? No, the jet stream is a trade wind. In the ocean, you have where the boats, currents. Just like the trade winds is above, in the ocean, all of this because of the rotation of the earth. Okay? It's keeping these things going, and they keep it in balance. This is why they also have the problem, I'm going to stay along with it, with many of these satellites that they're sending out, and not respecting the kind of timeline they should be waiting for in order to do that. So now you broke the protected atmosphere because of so much that you're sending out. And like I said, like anything else, you keep sending it through the same, and you have a certain angle in order to get out of there, get out of Earth's gravity. There's a certain angle, certain timeline that you must hit in order to do that. So you keep doing that, eventually you're going to widen that opening to where maybe it might not close in time. And like I said, as a little boy way before, man, I don't know, 9 years old, maybe 8 years old, somehow I observed that every time they would announce about a rocket ship going out into the atmosphere, whatever that normal weather would have been, it changed. The next day it would be raining and so forth and so on. But with that said, the idea of a virus is spread all over the world in 3 days, I'll just say. How? Because whatever the virus was, the trade winds took it all around. Now, did that happen without God's permission?
And that's the key.
No. God's permission. Meaning God allow it. God don't support slavery. But if you did it, he allowed it. And hopefully a knowledge lesson will come from you on it that slavery is not a good thing. Slavery of anybody, any human being, as God says in our book, domination. To seek to dominate the world, to be a dictator out there, which is a domination over the world. I want to dominate, and I want to be in control, and what have you, and have my little group with me. You know, all of the history of man warring with each other over things that could have sat down at the table and say, well, I got a war and steal it from you. I got something you need. You got something I need. Let's trade. And that was the real lesson of humanity, where our prophet came out from in terms of trade, fair dealings, and etc. But when the devil gets in there, it becomes another picture. So the virus, as far as I'm concerned, there are many viruses right now. We're just talking about this one here. They gave it a name and what have you, COVID-19. And even after a while, they said, well, we got to call it another name because it's a variance. It then mutated, and it's going to continue to mutate. But just as the common cold does. And there was viruses that hurt animals, that animals died from, that didn't infect us. You know, so these viruses, the best thing that mankind can do is, number one, is to obey God. That's number one. And what I mean by that is make sure your actions in engaging in the use of what God has created, that you engage in it, science and otherwise, to bring help to humanity as a mandate for what you're doing, and to bring balance, but not to bring greed. And fear can never be a motivation for anything other than the loving fear of God or for God, not to violate what God has said should be violated. The salt water does not cross into the fresh water. Now this is water. We have to it uses that because it said this is water. Right. You know, so when you science and you say you put salt water, this is water. You're looking at this. You mean cross? Right. You know, as one thing they say oil and water don't mix. Okay, you can kind of understand that a little bit. The way the mechanism made up and but water, how salt water wants to be right up to each other, but they won't cross the barrier. That's telling us there are barriers. And you must respect the barriers and what have you. If you don't, then you will create a plague on your own self. Not by, was it one of those movies and stuff? I'm trying to think of it. Moses. When he told Pharaoh, I have to use this because people were listening, that the next plague will come, it's going to come out of your mouth. You know, next one will come out of your mouth. And it ain't going to be on the children of Israel, it's going to be on your family. And what have you. Right. Yeah, it's going to start right there, right? So I'm saying in terms of man's arrogance and what have you, quickly gets checked by the nature of things. Man don't control nature. Man is part of nature, Mother Nature. And we see Mother Nature very active in the globe. Mother Nature is that trade wind. Mother Nature is that the underwater highways. I just said
the current.
The currents, yeah, the ocean currents and what have you. a sailor or somebody navigating the day. You know, good and well, even flying and what have you. You got, if they fly a certain way because of the trade winds and what have you. And if you're on a plane, sometimes you may see, if you go look at things, they'll say the trade wind is 800 miles an hour. And they call it the tailwind, meaning it's behind you, and it took you going one way, it took you 4 hours, but with the trade wind behind you, it took you an hour and a half. You know, so everything man has created is not, he's taking it from the creation, and why he can't logically understand, if you're taking it from God's creation, then all of the created matter is going to have some impact on it. And if you don't calculate that, then your plane and your ship, if you take the ship and put it in the I don't know why I keep skipping this name, the current, the ocean currents, and go against it, you're going to be standing still. You ain't going nowhere. So you got, when they came from Africa, the routes and what have you, because they knew how the ocean flowed and what have you, you know. So got a little net flying around here. You know, they knew how the ocean flew. So I mean, so these things are science. You know, and we get these things in schools and etc. so that you take the mystique out of them. And man likes to keep the mystique in him because he wants to have himself as God, or wants you to come to the thing that he is a God without him saying it. He wasn't like the old wicked Pharaoh, because all pharaohs weren't wicked, who said outright, I'm the God. How dare you worship anybody else? You know, but today, we're in the conclusion of things. And we have a lot of that kind of mindset that is peeking his head up. I am the God. So a little virus comes along and says, you're the God? No, you're not. You know, find a cure for this. So these, what do you call it? The injections and things they're giving us for the virus, vaccinations and stuff, is not the cure. This just says something we can, we're trying to give you something that we discover to help boost up the cure in you already. So to boost your immune system, to help it identify that this one coming in is not good for you. But it can't ignore what God has created already. Because inside of you is already, God has made it. He's the merciful one. He has made us as the vice germ. And he has made whatever virus is out here, he has created in us a universe, a cosmos, that anything come in there, it goes to work. It goes to work to head it off. However, if externally you have been impacted to where your intellect and your intelligence, or miseducation, however you want to call it, you've been dumbed down not to utilize, and you're just functioning as an animal like everybody else, well, then you have weakened your immune system.
I think you said that this week, Brother Mary mentioned that if you take the intelligence from man, they're just left to be animals.
Right, period. That's it. If you take the intellect, man, no use of intellect, then you got no animal. Like I said, maybe a good animal, you know, either one that you can say, come here, go here, and they do it, and we see a lot of that going on. Go gamble, you know, we just make it happen, go gamble, you know, because you got intelligence know that, why am I spending my money here and I got obligations here? Oh, go gamble. All right, no, play the gamble game. Okay, just go dance until you fall all over the place, you know, freak out, and you know, these things here, don't worry about nothing, just do that. Then, but you got intelligence. You know good and well that's not good for you, your family, your neighbor, nobody, and what have you. So, again, use of an intelligence. That's what makes us above all other creation, is that we are thinking human beings. But we find ourselves giving up our ability to think and accepting to it to be shaped and formed by an oppressor who wishes to dominate and keep you in a docile situation to where he or she can control you, and therefore you feed their agenda and what have you. So this is, you know, the Akira is, again, looking at, it's related to death. You know, and as the Imam said in reference to our father Adam, that when God said, and I put him into a deep sleep, that was to take his perception out of the way. They didn't want his perception to be, so I put him to sleep. I don't want his perception in this. I put him to sleep and gave him my perception, what I wanted him to have. So how you perceive things either awakens you or keeps you docile. So the perception for life to be generated and etc. was a perception that God said, this is what I have for you. And God interceded with Adam and said, go to sleep. You go to sleep, and what have you. And then the man likened it to in dreams, that there are dreams where
you can receive guidance.
Right.
Yeah.
In the dream, you receive guidance. And there's just regular dreams, but there's dreams that also that can give you guidance and what have you. And right now, again, we're in a time with this COVID, what have you. The best defense for it is to use your intelligence and to give your physical body the support that it needs in order to fight it off, just as you did with the cold, which is another virus. And as we know, the cold, there was many, you're a nurse, there were many names for the cold, swine flu 1, swine flu 2, swine flu this one. Then I can't think of all the names over the years that they call the common cold, and coming up with injections. But then they'll tell you, well, the flu shot we got now may not be the virus of the flu that's coming, but take it anyway, because maybe, it's guesswork, maybe it'll help. But the real help can be to use your intelligence, living in a four-season environment and understanding it, as great-grandma did, who didn't have a education from these scientific schools, who knew. I never forget my grandmother, man. May God give her paradise, and God, I look forward to seeing her again and going into the garden with her. At 3 and 4 and 5 years old, I worked with my grandmother in the garden. Well, God knows best. I do got it, though. I wish I had the ability at that age to write down and do things exactly what she said. I heard what she said, and I'd seen it come true, in that garden, 3 o'clock in the morning. And Grandma would say, well, today, we have to finish the garden, and become the dawning, start coming up, and we sat on the porch. She lived in Coney Island out there. And she would say, well, about noon or so, we should get some rain, and it's going to last about maybe an hour or so, and that'd be good for this vegetable, that vegetable. She was saying, okay, no problem. Noon come, it rained just about what Grandma said. Now, Grandma was no meteorologist, the weather guy, I'm saying there, but she knew that. From her, whatever the hand-me-down situation was, she read the creation and knew that that's what it was. Could she write it down and read? No. But she read it from the soul and the guidance that God had given her, and she can tell you that weather report better than they can tell you today. And so that's the kind of circumstances that we're in. So the virus is a virus. Build your immune system up. Do what you need to do. We all need to get healthy. We have been sold a diet of death.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the bottom line. The world has been sold a diet of death. We know we eat too much salt. We know we eat too much sweets. And the worst of the sweets, there are some sweets, natural things you can do, and like anything else, it needs balance. But we in a society that says, no, balance, go to the extreme. Take all you want, eat all you want, drink all you want, smoke all you want, fornicate, sex, gamble all you want. Just do all that stuff there and promote it like there's no consequences to it. So you got little children, obese, based on fast food diets, no nourishment. All parents don't want to cook. Why? It takes too long, my time. Well, when is it so important you can get to? Oh, I got to go to that next party. I go to that next gossip session, so forth and so on. So this is it's waking us up to say, and then again use death to make you afraid, like you're not going to die or something. I never could understand that. I mean, if you came into the life, this flesh is like all material things, has a time.
Right.
A clock is on it, And the best thing you can do is try to keep it in its best shape as you can, and what have you. And when it's time to go, whether it be the virus, whether it be whatever it is, that time is not commanded by the virus, but that time is under God's control as to when your flesh will lay down. God gave when your flesh was coming in, and God is the only one who has the authority to say when it's going to go out. So, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, Brother Imam, something you said the other day, because you talked about how they promote all these things on TV for children, and you said watching TV is like you have to have an alarm. So there should be an alarm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have to. I mean, we're living in a time of inclusion of things, and that picture we've gotten, Satan's work, or evil people, evil man's work, evil woman's work, their work, they know had a time limit on it. Ain't but so far you can go with it. And it's clocked into everything else. Ain't but so far you can go just eating all day long. Ain't but so far you can go just drinking all day long. Ain't so far you can go with bad behavior and etc. Ain't but so far you can go before it takes you out. And then that time won't be God's time. That's your hand choosing the time. Mm-hmm. You chose it. That's suicide, they call it. Mm-hmm. So we're in a suicidal society. Mm-hmm. Literally, the things we do are suicidal and what have you. And you have no respect for life, and you take your own life by doing these things that is clearly your body, the temple that you're given, starts to tell you, hey, what's the matter with you? How does it say that? By pain. Start doing things, say, wait a minute, you what you did here? What's going on here? And it's a warning telling you, hold up here. I got rights too. You know, come on, help me out here. Now, okay, you didn't splurge and had your time. Now, let's get back here. You know, let's get back into the exercise. Let's get back into, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is that. Let's get back in some kind of heartbeat and what have you, Walk up the stairs, you can't breathe, tag on, man. You start thinking about, oh, yeah, I better do this. And don't wait for no New Year's resolution. We're talking about you going to go to the gym. You know what I mean? You may not have a New Year. Eat that up, So I'm just saying we're in a real time that's clear. Mm-hmm. It's clear that mankind is in a time where there are those working to misguide our good human nature and best intent to love one another. Mm-hmm. There are those who just don't want us to love one another, mm-hmm. to see each other for who we are as human beings. As human beings. And so many leaders, prophets and others, general leaders, have come and tried to point that out to us and tell us, looking at a person's skin, how in the world can that make you higher or lower based on the skin? How can that? How do you even come to that? It has to be a devil somewhere that has influenced you to come to such stupidity that based on your skin color, you're better than me, or based on the skin color, I'm lower than you, whatever it may be. Because I'm not my skin. I'm not even my flesh.
Right. Great point.
Yeah, I'm not even my flesh.
Right.
I am a soul put in the flesh. And that soul is the same soul you got, with the same soul aspirations that you have for you and your family. We're all soul people.
I'm a soul man.
Yeah, we're all soul people. I didn't say soul man on purpose. When the woman starts saying so, no, we're all soul people. Right. And God said, and you're made from one soul. And then twine spread many. But your origin is from one soul. And how do you disrespect that soul? By trying to impress it in the body and ignore the soul and say, I'm the body. I'm this flesh and I'm nothing else. See, that's the atheistic thinking. I'm this flesh and I'm nothing else. But what did you use even come to that kind of language? Was it your flesh that told you that? No, your flesh don't have the ability to tell you that. Your flesh is created angelic almost, righteousness. That's why it's called a temple. It's called a temple because it don't have that authority. Your soul has the authority to bring in and has that ability to make those choices, but your body does not go along with it. That's why you got a lot of sickness you got, because your body is not designed to go along with wrong thinking or wrong behavior. And first you think it and then you do it. First you think smoking weed, then you smoke it. First you think drinking, you do it. First you think to do a wrong thing, to hurt and harm people, and you do it. But your body never submitted to go along with that. You have to force it. But it dies not agreeing with you. That's why it says in the concluding of things, your body will speak against you. Don't we see our body speaking against us? This is the concluding of things. Your body is speaking out. Your body is saying, man, they do this with his hip now, man. You don't run around here with this stuff and ain't do nothing. Your body is saying, you overweight, Brother Pasha. You know good and well. You talk all this stuff. You eat all this. What's wrong with you? You know, you ain't eating the vegetables. You ain't doing what you're supposed to do. Right. So your body is a mercy that God has given us. And it's alive. And it talks. It speaks loud and clear. And if you keep going, it gives you oh, what the heck was that? You know? So, yeah, I told you about this 5 years ago. You know, and you can remember the time, too, because it's just like that. Man, this has been hurting for, man, about 4 months now. Yeah, because it spoke up 4 months before it was like that, you know. So this is the reality in terms of that. And we're living in this time that we better recognize this is the time of the concluding of things. Things are being made clear, and there'll be no excuse as to why you continue on the path that you are continuing on as mankind. You cannot continue this path. And as God says in our book, and it says in the book before, but in our book it says, you will come, willingly or unwillingly, resisting or not, you coming. You're going to come to the reality that you are not the ultimate one in charge. And what I plan, as was said to Satan, you plan and God planned. And if you had any sense at all, just stop and ask yourself, what are you using to make your plan? And who made the things you're using to make your plan? So how do you think your plan will outdo the one who made the things that you're making your plan with? How do you come to that conclusion? Somewhere along the line, you know, I got to use all these things for this plan, and I'm not going to check with the one who made these things? I'm not going to get it right. It's like I said, all this stuff, these equipment and everything else, and you say, okay, let's try this here. This ain't working. I'm going to pull it over here. No, let's put it here. Oh, no, let's stick this here. No, and Philip says, take this over here. Oh, no, here, there. I said, man, this thing ain't working, man. We got to take it back. And then somebody comes along and see y'all doing that and say, hey, man, what's going on? I said, no, man, this thing here, we got this thing here, man. They're always giving you cheap parts, man, made from this place, that, you know, all that big conversation. It didn't work. He said, well, where's the instructions? Everybody look around. Instructions? What that got to do with anything?
The manual?
Yeah. You mean the manual? Oh, that's over there. Did you throw that out? Yeah. Well, how about we get that and try reading the one who created it and how he gave instructions on how to make this work. But your arrogance, you know, showboating and everything else. I ain't reading no instructions. I know how to do this. And you sit there and you blame the equipment, say there's something wrong with the equipment, and they sold me some kind of, you know, those daggone Chinese, and you know that other white man, and you know that brother down there, he ain't never want to give me nothing working. And the brother come along and say, well, did you read the instructions? Life has instructions. Right. And our book, the Quran, is a book on reading the instructions. Here's a book that gives you clear instructions on how to have life and have life fully, not only here in this existence, but in the existence that you're going to spend the most of your time in. This has a clock on it. The existence after this has no clock because you was created in the existence that has no limits. Or I should say, you were created by the one that's not subject to anything that you would be subject to. And that one says, and wait, after I give something of myself to them, then you're going to see that you need to make a base. Because I and you and me. And this is the beauty of it, that God has given us something of himself. And you got to understand the cosmos, the universe, and what have you. And understand why scriptures are saying there's a time for concluding and a time for judgment and all these accountability, all these things. Well, what is this thing that's going to be there to help be accountable for? And what is it that it records everything? nothing will be left out. You know, nothing will be left out except for during that time frame that God in His mercy didn't register it. Didn't charge you with it. Yeah. Didn't charge. And we know our book says you do a good one, it can wipe out so many bad ones and what have you. And so that's what it said. This is the merciful God. This is the God who we pray to. This is the merciful God. And why I pray one that needs nothing nor impact or affected by anything He created. And then He's in His mercy, I'm going to help you even further. I'm going to give you some of, I'll put it this way, some of that power that I have. I'm going to put it in you. I mean, this is just, it's just a beautiful thing, man, in terms of, so we can't run around being worried about COVID and what's that. Wear your mask, you know, do the things you're supposed to do, try to stay healthy, and, you know, I mean, take the vitamins and your stuff and what have you. I mean, that's what you do, but you can't go to did the extreme help? When they went and everybody, all the countries ran, shut everything down and locked people up in buildings and what's the name? Did it solve it? Not according to today's news.
Right.
It's the same thing again. So, and then you got countries that's trying the same thing again. Well, let's lock them back down again. How? This is in the air. This is, the viruses are in the air. So, you don't have no control over that. It's in the air. You know, so again, like I said, I don't want no COVID. Well, stop breathing. You won't get it. You won't get nothing else neither. For that matter, you're out of here. That's what about COVID, you know. But again, like I said, common sense, intellect. You got it. Above the animals, use it. Don't be an animal, whether you be a nice animal or a vicious animal. You're not supposed to be an animal. You're above that. Think. And thereafter, be upright. That's the statement that's given to us. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, beautiful time.
Can you just talk a little bit about the thinking, because, you know, January 6th just passed, and they were talking about last year, January 6th, when they had the insurrection. Could you just, we're finding out...
January 6th is passed. Okay.
And we're finding out more about reports about how the president was actually watching it on TV and laughing and observing it. We don't know if it's true, yes or no, but if it is true, it is a bit disturbing. So could you just talk about the thinking that would take pleasure in watching human misery, like something like that happening, you know, like attack on the Capitol, and at the same time taking pleasure and laughing and getting some kind of sadistic pleasure from it?
Well, that's not the most important thing for the day, I can tell you that. For the time we're living, it ain't important at all. What is important is mankind taking responsibility for our lives and addressing the bigger issues. Those things come up because we're not addressing the bigger issues for humanity, period. And we're not addressing the creed that we made. In Islam, we have a creed, the Shahadatain. And in America, our country made a creed with God. That's called the constitutions, the preambles, and all of those things. That was a creed they made with God. They were under pressure. And they made a creed with God of what they wanted to do. They knew that they had to depend on God. There was nothing to depend on. And they put words together saying, we depend on God. We know these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed with certain inalienable rights that only God can give them. And they said that while at the same time they were doing, some were still doing things they had no business doing. So what the ex-president did or didn't do, he did enough that's evidence that, you know, whether you've seen him in some room on the stick doing something, President Donald Trump did enough in his lifetime, in his career, to show his prejudice, his racism, his greed, his seek of dominance, his boastfulness, and etc. with any God for the common person and what have you. He came in talking about blaming Mexican brothers and sisters as rapists and criminals, and he came in. So a January 6th situation shouldn't be the highlight. You should have stopped him a long time ago in terms of the weak efforts to impeach him and all of these things. it was a weak effort because many of those who were charged with doing that, they had their own racism and hatred and things they did, so they had a hard time trying to pull him out because, and he said it when he was running. He told all on that stage, I didn't give money to all of y'all. I know your dossier. I got the stuff on you. He told them. Right then and there, you knew you had a dictator. All of them running, they talked about one of the men's mother or something on the stage. Forget his name. The Bushes, one of the Bushes. He was the Florida, I think, governor. Jeb Bush. When he said something, and he said, wife and the mother, yeah. I mean, because the wife was Latino, I think it was. And then also it said something about his mama. Now, you know, you want to talk about my mama, man. You understand? If he been glad that was, yeah, he glad it wasn't one of us up there. You start talking about my mama, boy, it's going to be some wrong with this daggone place. So, I mean, but he told the man something about, I remember it was something debate. He said, well, they said something about his mother was this mother. He said, well, let your mother run then. That tell about this man. And here in New York, we knew him as one putting full-page ads out on innocent boys and call them animals and everything else. We know the history of his father. You know, the same domination in terms of racism, hate for black people, and so forth and so on, unless you knew my blacks. The man said this publicly. So I ain't looking at January 6th, which is a culmination of you ignoring this man's call for domination by race order. And he don't give a damn about the race neither. But he'll use the ignorance, the animal behavior without thinking of white folks, enough of them who won't think and what have you, and act on animal instinct rather than their intelligence and what have you, to put him in office. I'm going to make it great again. Meaning I'm going to make white the control and what have you. In the meantime, he wouldn't care about white, black, brown, or anything else. All he cared about himself, greed, and keeping himself on top like any dictator does. So they've seen all that. But they, we can compromise, we here and there. You can't compromise with falsehood. Falsehood is falsehood. Lies are lies. So now the man that went on and say, hey, this works pretty good. So I can keep lying. I can tell the biggest bull-faced lie there is. Evidence all over that I'm lying. But I got enough friends who will promote it and create media that will carry my lie. And I got enough dumb people who will accept my lie. And I can say to them, which is unfortunately has been a use for our political stuff for some time now, in terms of to win an election. And unfortunately, it's been on the Republican side. You can go with Ronald Reagan. You can go with several of them. Right away, what was his name? Welfare King, Welfare Queen, and what have you. Blame the other folks to frighten these folks to say, you better do that. Even Clinton, same thing, all this laws and criminal stuff. No judge can make a decision. We're going to maximize the criminal thing. I mean, so either you're going to have some as men, because they've dominated, you're going to have some, as my boys from the Italian, but some cojones or not. You know, call this what it is, put it out there, and that's it. All this playing around, there's some things, this is urgency. It's emergency. Because you're at the doorway of war. You're at the doorway of the democracy as we were heading for, gone. It's being threatened. You at the doorway of your economic system will collapse with this kind of thing.
Right.
All of that. You know, and you're feeling it just a little bit with this virus, or how your economy was going haywire. And then you had your enemy in there who said, well, let's take advantage of this. The pharmaceutical country making trillions, not billions, trillions of dollars, and holding back on the world of others who can't pay. And you got those trillionaires, you know, being they're going to become trillionaires now, in terms of this stuff, taking advantage of the panic of people and putting one against the other. Like, in other words, using court systems and everything. I mean, so you got all this going on, you know, the war of whether a woman has a right or don't have a right in terms of a circumstance. The key is that in terms of, well, how about some rules of marriage and what have you? You say, no, marriage, man and woman, male and female, ain't the marriage no more. It's man with man and woman with woman. or man with dog, or woman with dog, whatever it is, that's the order of the day. That's real marriage. Man with man is all out. I mean, you got to realize this is what's being promoted.
Yeah.
It ain't me making it up. This is what's being done.
Right.
And dare you to say something about it.
Right.
Oh, you're being hypocrite. I'm a hypocrite. You want to jump on another man and jump on top of another man? I thought that was something that they did crazy in the institution. Bugged down the institution, locked up for 25, 30 years, what have you. I thought that was there. We're in a free society. You know, and you can't find a decent people. Don't the scripture tell you about this? A time will come where you can't find decency.
Right.
We're living in the conclusion of this. This has to conclude. This is not meant for human beings. God ain't created human beings to behave like this. If you do, you eliminate yourself. So in terms of January 6th and all this, what have you, you know this guy was wrong, what have you, know he called it, you know he did it. If there was you, me, and Tyreek did that, or did it just any, I mean, not even that, just, I'm trying to think of what we could have done. Anything.
Right. For Ben Obama, they'd hung him.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even go there. I'm just saying just in general with us. And we did something, they want to give us the maximum 50 million years in prison, what have you, because all y'all sneezed at the same time, and that brought the virus on the world.
Right.
What the hell? How did we do that? I didn't even sneeze, man. What are you talking about? You know. So I'm saying that this is ridiculous. And all these color conscious people, as a superior, or makes you supreme, or that you got a right better than I got a right, what have you. If you don't stop this, this thing is going to go into civil war. And the media, what have you, which he knew it. And he used it. That they corrupt, they this and that. And he was absolutely right. But he used it to his own advantage. They corrupt. They what's the name? Dismiss them. I ain't going that state. Because they do. And he's right. He was right. But he knew it. He was right. He used it. And everybody else knew it. That's how he's getting a lot of the people. Because the media twist, turn what he wants to turn. And then say, we want to have this right to have freedom of the press. Freedom of the press, you ain't freedom of the press when you promote what you want to.
Right.
When there are good things going all over, but you won't cover it.
Right.
Because there's no freedom of the press when I'm the owner of the press.
Right. Right. And I'm dictating.
Right.
Right.
And put up a false editorial board and a bunch of people in there, but they can't do what I don't want done.
Right.
And you got approximately 16 billionaires on their way to being trillionaires that can control the entire media perspective. Magazines, newspapers, televisions, your phones, movies, all these communication mechanisms that send messages, we have you, 16 people own it all and got the last say so. So this is how he can exist, doing all the things we know that's insane. But he exists because his friends promote it and make justification for it. It's something this time we're living in. But we don't wake up to it, enough of us, to wake up and say, hold up here, wait a minute, help here. Now, they can go through that process, whatever they want to do, and, what have you, but, and then rat among their own selves, the Democrats rat among their own selves. We got a majority here, but you got one guy stands out, and one person can change the rule of the majority? How's that democracy? One person can decide that he's not going to go along with it, and then you then hooked in something that usurps the Constitution. Usurps I think the word I'm using, usurping it? Yeah, because you're overriding it by undermining it. The Constitution was the one person, one vote, and what have you, which we weren't included at that point, neither were women either, but we are now because that's where it's supposed to go to, based on the statement. One person, one vote. And then the majority ruled. Now, when they had the control, they were majority, it ruled. Now the Democrats got control, they the majority, but they ain't ruling. So there's a cahoots here. Because you got a bunch of those Democrats that are in cahoots with the other ones. They all leave the Capitol and go and hang out with each other. While the world, the rest of us, don't know what tomorrow going to bring, and so forth and so on. But this thing here is a threat right now to to all of us, and the threat is because the wish, the prayer of the beginning of this country, and those forefathers and etc. the majority of them, who was able to push through that kind of constitution, that kind of preambles, those things and what have you, looking for a better future and what have you, that's what's under attack now. It's under attack. They said, no, we got to play the race card here and frighten the white folks, because they still have the majority of numbers in the country, that they're going to lose something in terms of authority, and they have a right to have more authority in the country than anybody else. And selling that to folks, and they buying into it. Not realizing that your misery love company, if you losing anything, it's from the same person who's selling you that situation there. Because you're under the same situation. If the bread ain't on your table, it ain't on my table neither.
Right.
And we need to look at that. When those ships ain't coming in and ain't landing and unloading stuff, you paying just like I'm paying.
Right.
So, so again, this race thing that they use every time in order to divide, and have used it every time when they seen human beings coming together, the first thing they said, we got to stop that. And they'll normally say black and white come together, but I mean all coming together. Because now in the country, there are many people who have their foot here. The Chinese had their foot here a long time too, building railroads and all these kind of things. Part of all of what California and all those states there were actually belongs to Mexico at one time. Wars have them but I'm saying this has to stop. It's not going to last. All that it means is destruction for all. So January 6th and seeing that is just to let you see how ignorant, how unintelligent, and how people can be manipulated based on a bald-faced lie that is clear. But the man was building up that lie the whole time before he started even running for president.
Right.
If I run, they're going to try to cheat me. They're going to just say, he was building it up. He was marketing it. Just like a movie theater, he was marketing it. Matter of fact, if you look back, there are a lot of movies being made prior to this thing here to set this kind of motion up. To get you to accept it, don't realize you're accepting something because some movie, some theater.
Right.
As right now, again, the TV is constantly pumping out Islam as a terrorist this, Islam terrorist that, Islam terrorist that. All these little movies, all these stuff they got on there, especially this one called Eye On. That's all it brings on, under police things. All it brings, every other one they have on there is about some so-called Muslims, this and that, the other. Even if at the end, they wind up saying it wasn't a Muslim guy, but still.
What they're doing in
the imagery,
right.
the imagery, right, the imagery they're doing. Constantly. So who's the one writing this stuff and doing this stuff, and nobody says nothing? So we're in a time that all it's going to lead to is a civil war. Because I'm damn sure ain't going to stand by and let you ruin what I didn't gain for my family, etc.
Right.
I'm not going to do that. And he tried to take the military and have it violate its oath of not to do such a thing.
Exactly.
Had the top of the damn military guy walking down Washington, D.C. for him with peaceful protesters protesting against what he was doing, and had the military guy with him the whole time. He apologized later and said, oh, I was set up. I shouldn't have been there. In uniform and everything else.
Right.
And he goes there and takes the Bible and turns it upside down. You think he made that as a mistake? That wasn't no mistake. In front of a church? The Bible in his hand upside down? That ain't no mistake. He ain't that off the rocker. He knew which way the Bible should be faced it.
Right.
But he's saying, I'm not even just paying attention to none of this. And I'm going to stand in front of the church and let you know, this will not rule me. That's Satan, man. Yeah. They try it like, oh, he made a mistake. Oh, he did have bad. No. He's a strategist. And he went in front of a church and said, turn the Bible upside down and say, this is not going to rule me. Yet he's got these extreme religious people right with him. So I guess they got the Bible upside down too, saying it ain't going to rule our decision making either. Because how can you be with a man like this who's calling for our country to be destroyed? Accept me or destroy. It ain't going to happen, though. I think enough people, and again, that so-called Congress and things we got there, we got to be on it and say, listen, in no extreme situation, in some of these extreme Democrats we got too, you got to address them too. Don't come up here and come with this extreme stuff you feed into the scenario in terms of thinking that making people go along with the afraid thing because stupid stuff you say. You know, no, we ain't going with this. You know, and again, I will never, under no circumstance, accept a man that God made whose biological flesh is just like mine. He is a man. I don't give a damn what he think in his mind. I don't care what kind of mind he done picked up to think he's a woman. He can think what he want, but you are a man by God. And to work against that, you can't go far. The same would be a woman. You are a woman designed by God. You didn't design yourself. And God gave you the ability with a brain that all of a sudden under the influences, you decide that you are a woman and that you always been. That can't be proven.
And they're promoting it real heavy now. You see the big program they got it on, and they unfortunately they put their sister Alicia Keys as the judge of it, with a transvestite RuPaul. You see it on every commercial. Big contest going to be who is the best transvestite, transgender one. You know what I mean? And have the sister as the judge. Top-notch celebrity, known all over the world. She's the judge of this contest with all of these men who are now dressed as women, look like women, promote themselves as women. And it's a big to-do coming up this next coming week.
Yeah, I know about that. You know, I don't.
It's on every other channel.
But it's I ain't got those channels.
Yeah,
you know,
I got them channels.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to be able to bring it forth.
No, I hear you. Well, you big because I ain't those channels. I ain't going for it, man. I got bad enough. I got that eye on something one. You know what I mean? But I have to. I ain't in there to watch no channel. You know what I mean? I wind up putting me in some kind of old Star Trek tape or something and falling asleep that I ain't seen in 5 years. I ain't completed yet. You know what I mean? In terms of that. But alhamdulillah, it's we're in a special time. You know, and it's to you be your way, to me be mine. Yeah.
Just for them, recently, I just the new mayor, he was saying something like, we're failing the youth now because I guess they did a huge bust and there were a whole bunch of like for gang activity. There's a lot of teenagers that arrested.
Gangs.
What kind of what now?
It was they busted a bunch of gangs.
Okay.
Young gang members.
Okay.
And it's like 16, 15, 14. So this is like we as a generation are losing the influence on our youth. Because they're all caught up in social media. Could you just comment on it as to why the cause of it, why you think there's a little break-in where we don't, like, for example, a generation may not have the kind of influence they should have on the youth, like some of the teenagers, so why they feel like they have to go a gang or so to be validated?
Well, it has to do with lack of having the vehicle called education, educational institutions. Educational institutions are supposed to be the place that attract the young minds and can keep the young minds in terms of giving them the ability to reason, think through things, and see things from that perspective. To put them in a room, in an environment that allows the questioning of things, and to give them history, give them science, give them things that will speak to their best human development, both at home and in institutions. When they're not in those institutions, and I'm sure most of the ones you're probably talking about are not in schools, and then the problem also in the school is that the school is not doing the job it's supposed to do. So they're left to the influence of quote unquote social media. And social media is not social. It's a mechanism that takes advantage of young children who are here to be shaped. They're clay, and they're looking to be fashioned and shaped. And when the home life doesn't have guidance or leadership, the school life doesn't have guidance or leadership, then they're left to the influences of the Little Red Riding Hood situation. I said hood, you heard that in there? Little Red Riding Hood, all right? And the big bad wolf who dresses up, and what does the wolf look like? It looks like grandma. Because this fable thing is telling you, saying something to you, looks like grandma, because grandma has always been known to have the real sensitivity for the children and etc. And bring the good things and so forth and so on. So the big bad wolf know that in order to get to Little Red Riding Hood, riding in the hood, knew that I got to come in like that. So your social media is like that old fable story there. Little Red Riding Hood, they're in the hood, they're riding in the hood, and the big bad wolf comes in through social media and knowing you need something, looking to be shaped, looking for something, and what have you, and if you see something look like grandma, grandma's supposed to deliver that. Because grandma can check ma. And then you got the institutions, so-called educational institutions, that are catering, like this Congress is, bending to the bad influences rather than take the hammer out and hit it around the head on the nail. You got to do all this fake-a-rudy of search here and there. You know damn well what was done and who did it. You know,
Right.
You had military personnel involved with this, police involved. You had all kind of different folks involved here, and they were willing participants.
Right.
There was something put on the table, and they willingly participated.
Right. They didn't oppose.
No, willingly participated in it. So the problem where the young people is that they're young and they're looking to be shaped. We were young and looking to be shaped too, and we fell into some of these same bags. And we went to school for a while, and then most of us dropped out. Why? Because there was nothing there to shape us, and the outside world that we're dealing with had more of attraction to mystique about things, so we got involved with things because it often mystique. So the school taught flat, didn't have no energy. There was no taught in any way that would keep my attention. In other words, it didn't have me carpentry and electrical and plumbing and things that would, even for the sisters, sewing, designer, futuristic stuff. It didn't teach me a subject matter. It had flat. But I come out into the street, and I learned how to rob, I learned how to steal, I learned how to mug, I belonged with somebody, it was a collective thing. Yeah. Because it's a natural thing. You what's the name? So if one don't have it, here's Satan, he said, well, I'll replace it. But it's a setup. So all these school systems fail because it does not have a curriculum put together by the loving mother, the loving father, the loving grandma and grandfather. It's as a system put together by a big bad wolf dressed up in grandma's clothes. They need to scrap this educational system they have, particularly when it comes to our folks, because most of the ones who's making it, who's getting what I'm talking about, who know that they're ready to be shaped, they're not waiting till college to get it. They are getting it in private public schools. They're getting it because they're futuristic. Their parents have put them there so they have a future in their thinking and etc. We're going to a public school that maybe one or two teachers in there may be trying to do something, but he or she, if get caught trying to give that extra boost, is in trouble. But there should be no public schools that directly, for understanding the male pursuit and the female pursuit, which again they're ignoring, the natural connection for male and female, what they cling towards, that anything, if you want to teach rocket science or any other curriculum, what do you call it, algebra, trigonometry, any of those things, put it and attach it to an automobile, and that African-American child, that Latin American child, all of them will be in that classroom. Tied to wiring a building, tied to concrete work, tied to plumbing work, tied to any of those things that they see every day in their life where they're living in their neighborhood, and they will learn and not only remember it, but they'll identify it. And the same for the female. So what happened? It was a time when I was in school, that's the only time I was in school, when those things were in school. When they took those things out of school, I had no more interest. Carpentry, I was glad, and I sewed up something and what's the name something. That's the male. You know, the sister was learning how to cook in what they call culinary arts classes and etc. And sewing and making garments and what have you. They like the clothes and they stayed in there, and they can learn every subject matter, science, math, language arts, other languages, etc. right through that same circumstance. So if this mayor here wants to do something, he's going to have to fight that uphill battle that you got to change the curriculum. Put that back in the school, and you will keep, put auto mechanics, put what's names back in that school, and you'll keep. As a matter of fact, the auto industry is working against it because it doesn't so much automation to the point where we used to be able to take care of our own cars.
Right.
Under the guise now of energy and all this stuff, but they're making it where only elite will have it, and you become, again, nothing but a servant to them because you can't serve nothing yourself.
Right. You're just a consumer.
Yeah, that's the word for. You're just nothing but a consumer. Buy and that's it, but you can't fix it. So teaching the children through their natural curiosity at those ages, you know, 3-year-old, all the way up 9, 10, 11, what's that, and having them into that, man. Heck, they'd be ready for college at the age of 14. Not ready for prison. So this miseducation, this whole environment is about, as it shows America in all this so-called glory of democracy, has the biggest prison institution than anybody else. But that's something ain't right. How can you be such this democracy and this fairness and justice, but you got half the people locked up, and particularly your colored people. You target them, the neighborhoods, the this, the that. You make rules and laws that are unjust laws. There was unjust laws that kept us down. Wasn't no fair laws, but they said, oh, it's the law. Yeah, but it's unjust. And we had to tackle that, say, this is unjust. I went to the army, I did the service, and you kept me separate here, there, and every other way. Then I came back, there was GI bills and everything else, and you made it easy for the white soldier to go and build a whole thing for them. And then told me when I went to apply for it, red line, couldn't get it, couldn't move there. So the country's got a double-edged sword. And if it's going to be America for everybody, it's got to stop that. It ain't no rocket science. They know they did it. You know, and then this whole thing of Trumpism to spreading, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to name it. I didn't do it. Well, just those words that you said says you did do it. Now, I would have left it back there with your forefather. I would have left it back there with him. But you're saying the same language, God damn it, that he said. So now that's the problem. Now your forefather wasn't the one who did that to my forefather. Your forefather did it to my forefather and father back, blah, 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 blah. But now we need to address this because there has been some injustice, unfair play. We had not started at the race line together, so forth and so on. Now we can, but we must recognize that situation, that it happened. So we can start this thing together and bring this to a halt. But when you start saying, well, I ain't responsible for what my father's father did, your attitude tells me, yes, you have the same damn attitude.
Right, because you benefited from it.
Oh, no doubt about it. That's the whole problem. You don't want to talk about it because it has to track back to where you have benefited from it, still benefited today, and I'm still being subject to your beneficial of this here.
That's right. That's the key right there.
So we're going to talk about fairness. We got to deal with it. But again, this guy, he used that thing to read back out. We won't talk about this. We ain't bring to school to have my children hate me. Nobody trying to get the children hate nobody. What are you talking about? We're trying to solve a problem and what have you, unjust behavior that's not going to allow our country to move forward in the proper way we want it to. That's going to create a collapse. And if America collapses, its impact on the world in terms of economy, money, and everything else, you got a problem. And some of those who are betting on it, when you start hearing about Bitcoins and all these other financial situations, they're betting on it. They're seeing it. They're looking at it. Now, what's plus or negative, they're looking at it and saying, hey, this thing, we got to get something else to secure here that's not subject to this thing because they're the biggest player in the world and the way they're behaving, and they see the smaller countries falling like that on that same thing. So they're betting on it. Now, we're stronger than that. And we can't be on the sideline. And we got to watch the hypocritical leaders that we choose. Mm-hmm. We got to watch these hypocritical leaders. We got some hypocritical leaders. And we got to watch them. Yeah, we got to watch them because they're not going and bringing everybody to the table. They're bringing who they want to the table, who will praise them, who they think can help them get votes. So that tells me, though, I got to watch you, because the only way you're dealing with this is because you think this person's going to help you get votes and what have you to maintain what am I placing? What am I placing with? You got the same thing the next one before had, just to get voted in, but do nothing. So this is a very unique time in the annals of human history, and whether we go up or whether we go down, that's where we at. And whether they're going to be men with some cojoneses, some women with some cojoneses, though I know they ain't got them, but you know what I mean. You understand? Somebody, I better say that part neither, because other women think I'm Western, right?
That'll go
by. That'll go on me, right. Or women being women, as the great mothers they should be, you know what I mean? And man, having some stuff, say, hey man, enough is enough of this now. Let's, you're going to sit down here, we're going to have this thing. I ain't after you, I ain't trying to get you, what have you, man. Somebody tell you that. I know, I'm looking for some peace and some love just like you are, man. And an opportunity, you didn't have opportunities way ahead of me, fine, you know what I'm saying? But let's deal with this here. Compensate me. I don't need you to talk about, give me no, what that thing they had?
Retribution?
No, the other one that they hollered at that says, to tell the people who went to college.
Reparation?
No, the people when they went to college, and they say, oh, you got this thing because you had, because they gave you this. In other words,
because you're black, you got in.
Yeah, but it was a thing they did to say they gave you extra something, and you came affirmative action that you had affirmative action. Yeah, the only affirmative I had was my brain worked better than yours. It wasn't that I got there with no affirmative action, but that was put in place as an answer in terms of you didn't let blah 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 blah. And I think that was a wrong. I know there's a good intent behind it, but that was the wrong way to do it. It was simply to say, listen, give me in value, monetary value, what you owe me. That's all I'm asking for. And then get out my way. So I can make the institutions we already got better. And those institutions to be geared on creating industrial life for our communities. Not to teach you to then take it from Tuskegee, from Howard or historical as they call it back on. Well, take it and then go to Harvard with it, go back to take it to Yale, and etc. And they have to sign off before you can get a job. No, in those institutions, create the industrial life there. You got the science, you got the create the industrial life there to build communities for our folks that's second to none. We got relationships with the global continent of Africa. Make those things work. South Africa got a semi-freedom but didn't get economic freedom. Let's join there. Let's join with the other ones, here, there, what have you. And the other influences are there, but let's make the effort. Not to build something to say now build a black nation. No. We have economic peace like you got economic peace. And we will trade. But this is simple. Let them put the curriculum together for these public school systems. Let's start our children off at 30 years old, looking at science and agriculture and leaves and what's the name, looking at material development and listen, we've been in some of the greatest inventions that ever walked on this earth, historically. Right. You still can't figure out how we did the pyramids. Took those big old blocks, and you got cranes that you pick up too much will fall down right now today. But we took those huge blocks and stacked them tight the way you can't get a penny in between them. And they're still standing. That knowledge is sitting there, and you can't figure it out. So I'm saying this is the challenge for us as Muslims. Because this thing we say, oh, Islam is 1 billion plus and growing. Growing where? Into divisions? Into Shia, Sunni, Ahmadiyya, this one, that one, all kinds of tribal stuff. What good is that doing us? So I'm addressing this really to us as a what's name, and then you just, again, you come here to America, and you come here with the same attitude. Come here to build big, huge edifices and mosques, to the whole thing of competing with churches right there, and then here your Muslim brothers sitting here who knows how to walk, and then you come into the neighborhood, and you ain't treat me no better than the next man who came in here. You come in here, and I got to go to you and say, listen, man, how you playing the Quran up in here and selling drugs at the same time? Selling beer, promoting gambling, and so forth and so on. You know, how I got, you know, what's going on here? This is haram. Oh, brother. Yeah, but you ain't selling it where you live at. You don't even live in here. So, again, this is global. In all these African countries and everywhere, the same thing. You in there, Caribbean. You in there, you know who run your gas stations? Who run your what's the name? A Muslim. Person calling himself a Muslim. But they ain't treating you right. So we got issues that we got to address among the Ummah in terms of that, man. And the Imam tried a lot of it too. He went there, Saudi Arabia, them tried to make him a slave. Then they didn't give him $2.50. And what happened? He said, no, you got the wrong guy. You know, like Master Bilal, Abu Bakr, wait a minute here. Start, you freed me. Okay, I appreciate that, man. I'm good to go. You know, but he started talking some talk. And, hold on one second, let's get something clear. Did you free me to worship Allah? Or did you free me to, which one is it? Because I go back on that rock. Same as I said before. We know slavery. I ain't look for no new slave master.
Right.
Abdullah, servant to God. That's what I'm looking for. Praise. He said, let me praise God and know that God is. I'm good to go. But now you're gonna make me. I got respect for whatever you've given me, services, whatever you help with. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I got to pay you something. There's a debt. Pay it. But you're not gonna hold me like this. And most of them, like I said, they come here now. You know, Muslim by heritage. And that's what it's the prophet said, no, ain't no hand-me-down, but whoever best qualifies. Right. There's no hand-me-down. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took his sons and sent them straight to paradise. They didn't come here because he knew exactly what they would try to do. And when that didn't work, they tried to do it with grandsons, and that's what you created this whole thing with
Ali.
Yeah, the whole thing created. So alhamdulillah, praise be to God, man. There's a lot to be discussed and dealt with, but again, use your intellect, use your intelligence. Build these schools. We know education is the number one priority, and we catching hell with our parents to be able to help us do that. It ain't that we lacking the space, we got the space. It ain't that we lacking a bit, we got it. But we catch hell. That other man's ice is still colder than ours. We'll never break out of this like that.
Right.
Nothing wrong going over, like I said, far as China. And China wasn't Muslim, far as China to get knowledge. But the knowledge will be brought back home. Right. Come back here now. And add that to our curriculum and add it to our circumstance. Don't want to do it. I don't know what it is, what's wrong, but we got some kind of situation in terms of that priority as to why you asked that question, Philip, in terms of those 14, 13-year-olds joining what's the name. It's the same scenario. Our children are out there too. The Muslim children, quote unquote, is out there too for Muslim parents. Muslim, they out there too. They out there with the bad eyes and the what's the name, and no matter what you done did, they can't see it. You better not ask them to take it off. They see that as that life is been made popular, and I want to be with my most popular. Don't know that popularity is taking you to the hellfire. Right. And when they burn them out, then they want to call back to you to come do something, and you hate to be able to say, I told you that was not going to work. Now I got to work triple time, double time to get you back. But that's after the fact. So we're losing our children, left and right. We're losing them. We call them, they'll hear me, they'll come, what have you. But they come and they got to take off that other clothing in order to come to see me. Because they know if they see me, they know me. I'm going to say something. Hey, what? Right. What you got here? Wait a minute here. Oh, girl, boy. Start my stuff. So, but alhamdulillah, we love them. Yes, but we got to guard against it. So white folks, stop being idiotic. You beautiful. I'm beautiful. Everybody, human beings is beautiful. Let's take our beauty and not let them make fools of us like this. Our beauty is not greater than our humanity. We are human, and we share that more than anything else. And don't let this society, and don't let America be lost, and that we have to go into civil war over stupidity, because nobody wins.
Right.
Nobody wins. So the majority of us need to stand up and need to have more sit at the table and etc. to address this stuff on our immediate concerns with the new mayor and others there. This educational system, he needs to be having much more than what he got so far. He just got started, so I ain't put too much pressure on him to really look at this educational system in terms of that will be the thing that knock out this gang mentality, on the street mentality, etc. His effort to keep them in school, even with the virus, which I understand, because if you leave them out there, they're going to be caught up. Right. So at least have them in school. But you got to look at the curriculum and what's being taught there that's not holding them there. You can do a kindergarten and what's name, but once they start getting to be 7 and 8 years old, the boy, what's name, you ain't going to be holding them much longer. And then all these other influences that you said, social media, that they have access to now, it pulls them right out of it. They are ready to be shaped. They're in the mold for shaping, and you must guard what shapes them. So praise be to Allah. Yes, think we it?
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you. Again, we pray to God that our efforts, again, is always to give good and nothing but good to the best of our ability and to make our position clear. Now, we, you know, again, those who choose to their life, that's your choice. All I say to you is that it's not my choice, so don't come and try to force it on me. And if you come with it, you know, and I tell you that's just not my way, but if there's some things we can do, I'm going to do with you for good. You know what I mean? I ain't got that kind of spirit. I'm looking for help, work, for him to help me. So I help. But if you're going to come with an identity that you're going to make me have to accept, that's not going to work. I'm not going to accept it. You know, I accept my human identity. I have my human identity, and God made it that way, and I'm good to go. But I ain't chasing you down neither. So I ask you, stop trying to chase me down. I'm not chasing you. I'm not trying to get you to accept my way. I'm just telling you what it is when you ask me. You know, and you choose to live the way you live, that's on you. But I don't live that way, so therefore, ain't but so much we're going to be able to do together. But we can maintain peace and what have you. But that was sad what you told me about the sister. That's you know, and she's chosen on purpose.
That's exactly right.
She's chosen on purpose right. Because of though they ain't the strongest connection, it's a weak connection, but yet still it's a connection. Mm-hmm. And you're taking advantage of it. You don't need the economics for it, that's for sure, in terms of revenue-wise. Right. You're tied into that, so why do that? What have you? So that's on purpose. You represent part of something of decency, and we want to get you tied into this, right. Just to say we can do it. And if you don't do it, we won't make you popular and otherwise. So sometimes you got to walk away from popularity. And in this way, I pray God takes our brother, and I'm sure he will, Sidney Poitier, into paradise. Mm-hmm. Because that was a man that stood on a principle, mm-hmm. and he never deviated from it. Right. It would be very hard for you to find a movie that he made that he didn't play a dignified part. Mm-hmm. I have to salute him, man. Always, right. I mean, I salute him. Always. That brother there, I'm saying he was the model, and the rest of them fell under the boat except for a few. That he would not play no matter what he played. He played in a time when it was like what? He played a black man married by a white man. You know, he played a black teacher in England. They're teaching this, what's the name? But he showed the humanity. It would deal with human beings. Yeah. Though the picture was showing black and white, but it was human issues that he addressed and what have you. Even when he played comedy, him and Bill Cosby and etc., it was still about a better motive. Yeah. It was about getting something good for the children and the orphan and all these kind of things. That man played some movies that they all look at. And I can say my man Denzel Washington, he tried his best to stay on that track too. Mm-hmm. But they got him on that damn police picture to make him play that part and say, now we will award you for it. Mm-hmm. When he played so many great roles and dignity and etc., but they put that on to make sure this is going to stick, because this is the one we signed off and said, And until you do that, we ain't gonna happen.
And they keep playing it over and over
Yeah,
and over.
yeah, on purpose.
Always on.
Yeah, nothing else. will happen.
Always on.
Yeah,
Training
on
day.
purpose. Yeah,
You can always
sure.
turn the TV
sending a
and see
message,
it right now.
sending a imagery of what they want. That's the enemy of mankind.
Yeah.
Not just enemy to us. He's an enemy of mankind. That keep this image, which I keep this image, then that keeps the other one saying, yes, I'm better than that. Even though they have that same thing going on in their house, but they can point over there and say, I'm better than that, and what have you, and have worse things going on. So, Mr. Sidney Poitier and his family, we send our greetings out to you all, but he's a grandfather, he's a father, he's a husband, etc. I thank God. I had one opportunity to meet him a long time ago, and it was a great man of dignity. And again, he expressed that in those movies, which is important, because they had for a long, long time. And you have no problem sitting down with him, singing with the nuns, and telling them how he ain't going to build this nun thing for them, but he built it anyway, playing the guitar, try to give them a little rhythm and blues, but they couldn't go for that. Like, what's that all about? I said, okay, wait a minute, let's go with another song then, you know, and what have you. So it was just beautiful, beautiful situation. In the time he was this is the 50s, early 50s on through, and what have you. And I think he stopped, he even played, I forget the name of it, he played a Muslim. And one of those old pictures with the horse and the thing and everything, I forget the name of that movies, man. You remember that one, Tariq?
No, sir.
Yeah, he played a Muslim Khalifa and what have you, a Caliph over something. They tried to set him up, but yeah, he must. I can't remember the name of it. I remember seeing him so many different places, things he played, man. Great. His picture, and I don't know what his love life was. I guess it had to be the same as what he played in terms of the dignity. The man refused. Then he got behind the camera and played things. And certainly he made a big splash when that white man slapped him. He slapped him back. That gave all of us a boost. Plantation, oh sheriff, my man Rod Stagger. Then the hell you just do? You don't get me killed with you, man. I mean, it was a time I could have you kids. So yeah, try it now if you want to. You know what I mean? You smack me, man. We lost your mind. Sheriff said, get on this train, man. Get him out of here. But he knew how to solve the case. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man. So may Allah give his soul to paradise and have his family in peace. So same to you all. Peace be unto you. We thank you. We pray, God, that in our discussion that something made sense to you and that somehow we mean good, nothing but good. So help us, God. And we pray that our country will see a better way in better leaderships, better circumstances for all of us. We all in this same boat together as human beings, and we all want good. So let us work for good and nothing but good. God's peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I want you smile. I love you smile. I love you smile. Why don't you smile? We've been thinking about some positive changes. We need some positive changes. Thinking about some positive